Hi everybody. I had to switch my camera, so okay. So we are going to do the autumn cards tonight, and we are going to do some ink blending. So if you don't have the inks, you can also color with colored pencils or markers, but I love doing different kinds of ink blending. So I'm going to show you what I did to make these cards. And so we're going to use ink pads, the standard close to my heart dye ink pads. And I'm going to use these blending brushes. I'm just looking for all my right colors here. We sell these if you need some. They actually have black handles. I've got some with colored handles. I try to match the colors with my colors of inks, which is why I'm looking for my colors here. So some of the ink colors I'm going to use are retired colors, but on your instructions that I sent you for the cards, I included the current colors that are very similar, and they are actually the colors that coordinate with the paper collection. If you don't have these blending brushes, you could also use these blending tools with the foam pads that come on and off. So you can, they sell 2 in a pack, so you can have a couple with different color pads on them, at the same time, or you can just switch them back and forth. If you don't have either of these tools, you can also use other kinds of sponges, like a makeup sponge. Just be careful with a makeup sponge because they're harsh. They have harsh edges, and you don't want those lines. So one way to do that would be to kind of curl it up as much as possible and get a rounded surface. And then there are also, other kinds of sponges and things you can use as well. So I did test this out. All of the let's try to leave it here so you can see it. All of the images are stamped with the intense black ink, which should prevent any bleeding. And I stamped them for you already. And I did a test to make sure that you'd be able to blend over it. And, they've been stamped for weeks now, so they are definitely plenty dry. Normally, my procedure would be to blend the ink first and then stamp over it, but this seems to work fine. If you did want to blend first, you could blend a whole big sheet and then cut out and stamp from certain areas. So that's an option. So we're going to go ahead and blend these couple of pieces first, and then we'll make the card. So this card has both the orange, which would be paprika, which is the color of this cardstock. So it's kind of a deep orange with a little brown in it. the honey butter, which is this pretty yellow, and rosemary, which is this gray green, which I love. Okay. So I like to work lightest color to darkest color because then the lighter colors don't pick up the darker colors. Although sometimes you do go back over them, and we'll talk about that to blend a little more. So what I'm doing is holding this brush like this and moving it in a circular motion over the ink pad. Now, my brushes are already inked, so they're probably going to have a little deeper color than yours. Of course, it also depends on how inked up the ink pad is. So you may have to work a little harder than me to ink it up. But what you want to do is pick up the ink, like I said, in the circular motion, and test it on a piece of scrap paper, because then you can see how dark the color is, and this is fine. But if it's too dark, you can just rub some off on the scrap paper, and before you hit your good image here. So I'm going to go over kind of the center of this leaf piece here. And then I'm also just going to do a little bit down on the tip here. Now you can blend these any way you want, add the colors wherever you want. Okay, so now I'm going to do the paprika. And the paprika, I'm mostly just going to hit this maple leaf here. And what did I do? I just skip that step I told you about and rub it on the scrap paper first. Now, my ink pad obviously needs ink here, so I'm not in bad shape because it's pretty light. So what's going to affect the intensity of your color is how hard you press down on your brush. The more you scrub, the harder it's gonna yes, more color come off, but it might actually make some brush strokes, especially if you're using one of the sponges at the Distress Tools, because you might hit those edges. So just be careful, and it's better to be a little more gentle and go over it a whole bunch of times instead of rubbing really hard. So now I'm switching to the rosemary. Ooh, I guess I've been using my rosemary a lot. That needs to be inked up too. I actually have used it on quite a few projects since I bought it. Okay, so I just needed to pick up some more. Okay, so now I'm gonna get this more around the edges. I'm just working on the bottom now before I come down more at the top, because I may decide to put more yellow in it. I'm going to wait till I see how this looks here. Yeah, and I'm going to go back and get some more yellow, and I'm just going to bring this yellow up a little more, and then pick up some more, I should have said honey butter, pick up some more rosemary up there just to blend it out. And that's all you gotta do. And then there's this other little sprig here that I'm also going to blend with the rosemary. Your fingers are going to tend to get a little inky just because you're holding on to the piece possibly when the ink is still wet. So just be careful when you're done blending, and maybe wipe your hands on a tissue or a towel, or if you're wearing your crafting pants like I do, and just wipe them on my pants. But just before you touch your other good pieces so you don't transfer the ink. All right, I'm going to close all my inks for now while we assemble the card, just so they don't dry out. All right, and I'm just going to push this whole piece of paper aside and give it a minute to dry while we put the card together. Okay, so no, in this workshop, I believe all the cards are 4 by 5.5. So that means our cardstock is all cut 4 by 11, and we're going to score on the 11-inch side at 5.5. And this is the mocha. It is the dark brown cardstocks, and I am scoring with the darker side facing up. Sorry, I should have pointed out which kit I was starting out with. Okay, so just score and burnish that. And we're going to use our leaf paper. If anybody wants a couple more of these pieces of paper, I do have some more. I think they're like $1.25 a sheet or something like that. If you just wanted a couple of sheets of paper, just let me know. So we're going to have the leaf side facing up, and put the adhesive on the brown side, and we're going to center that on our card. We have our standard 1/8-inch border all the way around. Next, we are going to put on our honey butter yellow cardstock. We're going to use the darker side, so we put the adhesive on the lighter side. And again, we're going to center this on the card, but we're going to have a larger border around all 4 sides. It's not an equal border on all 4, but it's a little more on the top and bottom. Okay, so the next piece that goes on is the brown stripe. And that's going to go on 1 1/4 inches from the top of your card, approximately. And it is the same width as your card. Okay, so this is another piece you might need to have a piece of scrap paper for, and it's your wreath. And it is a die cut, and there are some probably some pieces left inside the wreath. It's supposed to look like a grapevine wreath, and some of the pieces fell out easier than others. So I am just grabbing those and pulling them out. And you can, you know, if you can do it with your stylus, if you need a little help, you can do it with your X-Acto knife, you know, any little pointy tool and all. Just when you're doing it, like I have the good side, which is the darker side facing up. And when I pull these pieces out, I pull towards the back, just in case there is a little piece that's attached. In this case, they're not. They just were so skinny they stayed in. But sometimes there's like a little piece that catches. And when you pull it out, sometimes it'll rip. And you can prevent that by using an X-Acto knife, but sometimes it'll just rip a little bit, but it doesn't matter because if you pull it out towards the back, it'll just rip the back of it and you don't have to worry about it because it's going to be glued down. So as you can see, this has some really skinny pieces on it. So to glue it down, we can do a couple of ways. You can use your liquid glue with little dots, or you can use your glue pen, just making sure to get it started here. And I put it face down on my scrap paper, and I'm just rubbing the glue pen, which apparently I need a new one. I know I have a new one, over the spots. Now the secret to this is to not move your piece on the scrap paper when you are working on it, because if you were to move it up and down or side to side, I'm getting glue onto my scrap paper because I'm hitting over the edges of this piece. And if I was to shift this piece, it would get into that glue, and then it makes the front a little sticky. It does dry clear, so it's okay if you do that, but it just makes it a little sticky. So we can try to avoid that if we want to. So I'm just putting it onto my the front of my card, and it really doesn't matter which is top, bottom, side to side. I centered it on the card and I lined up the top of the wreath just under the top of that yellow cardstock. So I'm just going to put the that scrap paper with the glue aside because I don't want to accidentally put anything on that glue spot. And then when we use it again, we want to make sure if we do use the same piece, just don't put your next piece right in the spot where you glued the first one. All right, so now we are going to make our banner. And this color cardstock is called French Vanilla. It is, it's a little, it's not really off-white, but it's not bright white either. So I'm going to make this into a banner. And we've done this before. There's a couple different ways to do it. And all right, so the banner is 1 inch tall. So I'm going to flip it on the back, but I want it on, I'm just going to show it on this side so that you can see it. So I'm going to go in, just want to measure it. Okay. I only went in on this one 1/4 inch. So I'm going to make a mark 1/4 inch from the end and at 1/2 inch, which is half of the height. So I just made a little pencil mark, just a faint mark, just dark enough for me to see it. Oh, you probably can't see it. But if I don't hit it exactly, I can erase it and it'll be gone. You can, or you can do it on the back as well, but I just wanted to show you to make sure it was on the correct side. So now what I'm going to do is, you can draw a line first, but I'm just going to cut just a little something on my scissors here. And I'm going to cut from the corner, from the bottom corner to that dot. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to cut from the top corner to that dot. Just make sure my cut lines meet so that triangle is removed and you have a banner. And now I am still seeing a little bit of that dot. So I'm just going to erase that. Right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this strip of yellow and I'm putting a line of adhesive along the top edge of the banner that says Autumn Greetings. And I'm going to put it, this is the dark side of the yellow facing up. I'm going to put my banner and glue it so it's about a 1/4 of an inch below the top of that yellow. So there's only a 1/4 inch showing above the banner of the yellow strip. And then I'm going to cut again along the edge of that banner that we just cut and get rid of that extraneous yellow. And now we just have an extra yellow piece. What this does is it keeps the center of our triangle still centered on the French vanilla piece, but we have a little extra yellow there at the top. All right. So we're going to do that again on our light brown toffee cardstock. And we're going to do the same thing to make a banner. It's just a much narrower piece of cardstock. So this piece of cardstock is only a 1/2 inch tall. And so we are going to make a mark a 1/4 inch from the edge and a 1/4 inch from the top and the bottom. Now this piece of cardstock is the same on both sides. It's an older color before we started doing the different colors on each side. But so we're going to do the same thing here. So what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what side you mark on and what side you glue down. So we're going to cut from the bottom corner to the dot and from the top corner to the dot. And there we go. We have another banner. Now, if you find you didn't cut right or it looks wonky, you can always adjust. You know, you can trim the edges to make them match a little. You don't even have to measure at all if you're good at eyeballing it, but there you go. So you could just do like that if you wanted to adjust it. So we are going to, I'm going to put adhesive on both banners so I can play around putting them down at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to put the bigger one down first, but I'm not going to press down and make it stick permanently. And really, I wanted about 1/2 inch from the top of the brown strip and about 3/8 inch from the edge. Just so, you know, you like the look. And I'm going to stick, and I'm going to turn this so it's a little easier. And I'm going to stick this brown one underneath it, just about 1/8 of an inch. Okay. And it's not going to come out quite as far as this one. So it'll stick out more on this end. Doesn't matter because we're going to put our leaves on this end and you won't see that. All right. Now you can, once you're happy with the placement, you can press down and make sure that adhesive really sticks. And now we're going to put our leaves down and we're going to put foam tape on those to pop them up. Got my non-stick scissors here. So I'm just putting some foam tape on each of the leaves. And now I'm going to take the backing off over the garbage. All right, and now I'm going to put my big cluster on first. I'm going to put it on so that I'm not covering up the words. And the top of it comes above this brown strip. And I'm going to put this other one down so the stem is kind of underneath the other piece. And it's coming down. It doesn't matter so much where you place it, as long as you find a place you like. It doesn't have to be exact. So these are the two now. My sample, it's a little lighter. Our ink colors do dry back a little, so this will dry a little lighter when it's completely dry. But, you know, that shows you if you color a little more intensely. All right, and now we're going to put our embellishments down. These are dots. These are the Cozy Up dots that coordinate with this cardstock collection. And I like to put a dot of liquid glue down to give it more staying power. And you're going to have plenty of these dots left over, so you can use... All right, I've been meaning to start my new bottle of glue, and I think tonight definitely needs to be the night. However, it's going to take some work to get that my fine tip off. So we're just going to have to be very careful with a slightly thicker oh, I got it. Thought I was going to have to run it under some hot water. All right. All right, let's see here. As long as the tip's not all dried out. There we go. So we've got a drop right kind of under the end and a couple up here in the triangle portion of the banners. And I used the big orange heart down here, the big reddish, I think it's supposed to be scarlet, star, and then the little tiny gold sparkle circle. What I was saying is that we're only going to use a portion of these dots on tonight's card, so you'll have lots of leftovers. So if you wanted to use different ones than I used, you'll have a selection. All right, so there we go. There's our first card. And your sheet will be in one of your envelopes. If it wasn't in the envelope for this card, it would be in a different one. So I'm just going to pause for a minute if you went looking for those and need a second. The next card we're going to do is this one on the paprika cardstock. So look for the envelope with that. This one has a whole bunch of leaves. Okay, so I'm going to get my scrap paper back for blending. And you're going to need a large leaf cluster like the one we just used. You're going to have 2 maple leaves. You're going to have one of these branches. You're going to have an oak leaf and an aspen leaf, I believe. Oh, and on the last, if you have this circle, that was the inside of the wreath. That's just extra. Use it if you'd like. Okay, so these leaves were all colored with the honey butter yellow, the orange paprika, and a little bit of toffee, a light brown. ink. So I'm opening all those ink pads. Again, I'm going to start lightest to darkest. So I'm starting with my honey butter, adding ink to my brush, and just testing it on the scrap paper. So on my cluster, I added yellow to like the farthest tips. So these branches with the bunches of leaves. And I brought it a little bit onto the oak leaf here. So just like that. On this branch, I did not, the individual one, I did not add any yellow. To one of the maple leaves, I added it to the left and top, kind of like the 9 to 12 segment of the leaf. On the other one, I did the opposite, sort of, and did it from the 12 to the 3. And if you want your leaves to be lighter, you can add more yellow. And if you want them to be darker, you can add more of the brown. All right, and on the oak leaf, just a little bit on the tip. And the same thing for the aspen leaf. Okay. So now I'm going to switch over to the orange, the paprika. And I'm going to put some of this on the left side of the leaf, the oak leaf, below the yellow. And you always want to blend the edges of the two colors together. You want to make sure you don't leave a white spot. Okay, so for the second maple leaf, I'm going to add some of this paprika to the 9 to 7 kind of area. The left side from the middle down, but I am going to work it up a little bit just so it meets the yellow. Like that. And on the first maple leaf, I'm going to add some paprika to the right hand side, so kind of the 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, blending into the yellow. And then on this branch that we haven't added any color to yet, I'm going to do the top portion of it. Whoops, stuck to my finger, went flying. And then on the cluster, I'm going to add some to the maple leaf, on the top of the maple leaf. Notice I'm not testing it every time anymore because I know kind of how well inked my ink pad is. So I know that none of them are particularly well inked, so I don't have to worry about getting too dark of a blotch of color on it. And now I'm going to add some to the aspen leaf. All right. And now I'm going to go through and add the toffee color. Now this one I haven't used yet, so I am going to test it on the scrap paper. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back onto all my pieces here and just add this in where I don't have any color. Remember, you can go back and blend in with the previous colors if you want to change the mix of how it's turning out. If you decide that you like less brown and a little more orange or a little more yellow, you could go and add some on top. I like really intense color, so I tend to make them a little darker because that's what I like. But you could also, not blend quite as much, keep them lighter if you prefer. And like I said, our ink colors tend to dry a little lighter. So just keep that in mind that they look a little darker now while they're wet. Than they will when they are completely dry. The ink sinks into the cardstock. Whoops. Oh yeah, that sounds pretty, Lindsay. Yeah, you can be totally, obviously you can make these leaves whatever color you want. Lindsay's using Sundance, which is a little more of a gold yellow, and she doesn't have the brown toffee, so she's throwing in some nectarine, which is kind of a brighter orange. So she's getting, a yellow orange to a red orange, which sounds pretty. I'm going to go and add some more yellow onto that when I'm done here. All right, so I think I added brown to all my pieces. There's just, like I said, I wanted to add a little more yellow onto my aspen leaf. And just going to lighten up that brown and make it a little more golden by adding some more yellow there. All right, so I'm good. Just closing my inks. don't forget that the new catalogs launched on Friday, September 1st. So there's lots of new product to check out online. All right, so I put my leaves to the side to dry. Just wiping my fingers off, making sure I don't have any ink on them as I touch my other paper. All right, so like I said, we're using the paprika cardstock on this. We are using the darker side facing us and scoring on the 11-inch side at 5.5 inches. Hold and burnish. Okay. So we are going to use the brown side of the pattern paper and put our adhesive on the leaves. You can change this up too if you wanted to. Center it on the card, 1/8-inch border all the way around. Now we're going to put our zip strip on, and the zip strip is that decorative piece of strip, 1/2-inch strip of paper. And on the one side, it tells you, well, it has the brand, Close to My Heart branding, and then it tells you the name of the paper and the colors you've used. But they've started putting they put the decorative piece on the other side so that you can use it, which is nice. So this is going up a 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of your card, and mine is overhanging a little bit, so I'm just going to turn it over and cut off the overhang. I don't use the zip strips in workshops all that often because there's very little of it for the piece of paper, so I may not have enough for everybody in class because you can't just buy the zip strip. It's on one of the pieces of paper. So I often don't have enough, so I don't always get the opportunity to use it. But in this class, I was able to incorporate it, which is nice. Okay, so now we're going to add another one of these wreaths. And I'm taking my glue scrap paper out again, and I am just making sure when I put my wreath down that I'm not putting it in. This is where the glue was for the first one. I don't want to get it in the sticky. Now, if you notice this one, all the pieces were already out for me. Some of the papers, they fell out easier than others. So if you have to remove pieces, go for it. On this one, I'll just show you the liquid glue just to show you the difference. So I am just going to take, now I got to be careful because now this is a new bottle and I'm used to really squeezing the other one to get some out. So really I'm just putting little dots in kind of the thicker areas of the paper. I don't want to even put like a line because that tends to be more glue. I'm just using a very little bit because I don't want it to come gushing out. I want it to be secure. But now remember, the leaves are going to be over it. So that'll help hold it down too. But especially these little... a Xyron would be perfect for this piece. The thing that puts the adhesive totally on the back. But It's kind of hard to find the adhesive for those again these days, and I don't think they're really selling the machines anymore, which is a shame because it's one of my most favorite tools. Okay, so now I'm just being careful as I pick this up because I don't want my, you didn't really get to, sorry, I was off screen for some of that. So you could see all the little dots I put on. So again, I'm going to center this left to right and put it down about 1/2 inch from the top of the brown paper. And the glue hit there, so that's where I put it. And I'm just going to carefully burnish with my bone folder to put pressure on it and hopefully not get my fingers in it. Now a very, very tiny bit seeped out. There's going to be leaves over there and it's going to dry clear. That's why it's so important to use a glue that dries clear so nobody will ever see it. All right, so again, I'm going to put that piece of paper to the side so I don't get anything in it. And I'm going to go ahead and put foam tape on all of my leaves here. Now, yours are probably still a little bit wet because we put all that ink on it. And this card didn't take quite as long to put together as the previous one. So just be aware that as you touch it, you may want to wipe your hands off on a cloth so you don't transfer that ink. I turned them all over and I'm going to put foam tape on all of them. Now, I will say you probably don't want to put foam tape to the very edge of every leaf because we are going to be doing some overlapping. So it's just easier to make sure you don't have a piece of foam tape like at the very edge of each piece because then it might get in the way when you're overlapping your pieces. So you see, I'm really sticking the foam tape more towards the center, and they're still going to stay up just fine, especially as they overlap. I mean, you can move them around a little bit if you have to, but we don't want to have to. So there we go. Take up all the backing pieces. All right. Oops. Dump those in the garbage. Okay. So I'm going to put down the big cluster first, and I'm going to put this so it's kind of on the bottom left. Covering 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. All right, now I'm going to put down my maple leaves. And now this one, the yellow tip is on the left. I'm going to put this one above. I'm going to stick my stem down underneath the cluster. I'm going to put down my second maple leaf with the yellow tip on the right. I'm going to put that to the right of the cluster. And again, I'm sticking the stem under the bigger piece. And then I've got my piece, my branch with all the leaves is going to go on the top left. And again, it's going to stick partially under that maple leaf. I'm now going to put my oak leaf on the right and my aspen leaf next to it farther into the circle. So there we have a nice little cluster of leaves. And then we're going to put our adhesive on our sentiment, and we're going to put this partially in the center, partially overlapping your wreath. It's really going to depend on where your wreaths are. But in that upper right quadrant. And again, I'm just using my bone folder to make sure, to put some pressure on to make sure it sticks. I'll tell you that mine is about 7/8, about an inch from the top of the card and 3/4 of an inch from the right of the card, if you were curious. And then we're going to put our dots on. Almost forgot. So we've got one here on the left, halfway over the zip strip, down here on the bottom edge of the zip strip, and then little one down a little lower. And we're going to put the big sparkly gold circle on that first spot. Said I had to be careful about squeezing, and I squeezed too much. Okay, and then one of the medium reddish hearts. Down on the bottom edge of that zip strip. And then a tiny orange star, which is really tiny. I think these dots stick a little better than the gems. Things don't get stuck on the edge of them like on the gems, so that when that happens, the gem tends to pop off. These sit a little flatter. So if you didn't want to do the glue, you didn't have to, but my samples go through so much moving around and flipping through. I just like that extra security. So that is card number 2. Card number 3 is going to be on the rosemary cardstock. And you're gonna need a maple, 2 maple leaves, a branch, and an oak leaf, and an aspen leaf. And on these I used all 5 colors of inks. Sorry, it's 4 colors. I have a 5th color sitting here because the 5th color is this mocha that I stamped with. So, but we're only using 4 colors to blend with. As usual, we're going to start with our yellow. And I'm going to put a little bit on the top right side of the aspen leaf. If you don't, if you have trouble holding on to these, or you don't like the brush hitting your fingers, getting them inky, you can always hang on to them with your tweezers. All right, I'm going to put some on the tip and the left side of the oak leaf, and I'm just pressing down with the tip of my tweezers, and that way my fingers aren't in the way. You can do that if you prefer. I'm not somebody who ever has nails, so I don't worry about coloring my nails, but I know some people do. All right, so I'm also going to put some yellow on the tip of this maple leaf. And on the tip and the left side of the other one. There are other tools you can use, like an eraser, a pencil eraser side down, stuff like that, to hold your piece while you're blending the ink on it. And then a little bit on the tip and left side of my branch. All right, and then I'm gonna see if you got a pencil. You can use it's probably a little more helpful after you've colored the first edge of it, because now when you put your finger down, you're putting it down into the ink. So use your pencil eraser, though it is a little thicker, so your pencil might get in the way, but I'm sure you can find a way if you want to save your fingers from getting inky. So I'm just using the orange here on the other half of the aspen leaf. And I'm going to put some on the right side of this branch. On the maple leaf that has the yellow at the tip and the left side, I'm going to put some at the bottom. On this maple leaf, I'm not going to put any. And I'm not going to put any on the oak leaf. So now I'm going to move along to the toffee. And I'm going to add that to kind of the center of this, the maple leaf that has the orange on it. And I'm going to go back and add a little bit orange back on top of that because I covered some of it up. And so I'm going to put some on the other side of this branch here. Again, none on the oak leaf. The aspen is already covered. And we're going to put some towards the bottom right of this maple leaf that doesn't have the orange on it. Whoops. All right. And now we're going to move on to the rosemary. All right. So I'm going to finish off this second maple leaf with the rosemary. I really like this color green. We've had a lot of collections that have used it, but it's just, I mean, I wouldn't call it my favorite color green, you know, because it has that gray to it, but I think it coordinates really well with our palette right now. And it just looks so nice with so many of our papers and our different colors. I'm really enjoying using it. And then I'm also going to put some on the oak leaf. And those are the only two I'm going to put the rosemary on. It's not too bright and it's not too dark. So it's just a good leaf for, green for coordinating with different colors. I guess that's why I like it. Okay, so there we go. I hope you're enjoying blending your inks. I love how they look together when you do it. And you know, I enjoy it because you get the great look of the bold colors, but it's a little easier and it doesn't have to be perfect. So, you know, when you're coloring something in with markers or colored pencils, like you want it to look perfect. And in this, it's, you know, it's kind of more of a watercolor look. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a little quicker, it's a little easier, but just as pretty. All right, so I'm putting these aside to dry. I'm going to take this is my rosemary wreath using the darker side. I'm pulling out all my extra pieces and I'm holding it so the side I want to use is facing me and I'm pulling the pieces out the back. Now, I will have to say there are times where I flip the front of it and then hopefully you can turn it around and use the back. Now, okay, this one did not, it has a piece that just does not want to come out. So I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and just, you can see the cut line. So I'm just going over those cut lines and getting that spot. It's just a little spot that was being difficult that the paper was catching. Or it still had a connection, the two pieces. And this one too. Sometimes when you run them through the die cut, it just, my plate, I will admit that my plates are a little worse for wear, so that's probably why. So again, I'm just cutting those connection points. Hopefully yours are cut a little better. And there you go. Right. All right, so we've got our rosemary cardstock for our card base. We are using the darker side. So it's facing us and we're scoring on the 11-inch side at 5.5. Right. And we've got a bunch of strips here to make up our background. So we are going to start with the 2 leaf pieces. Okay, so I know these papers are the same. So one side is brown and one side has the leaves. So I'm going to tell you that the brown pieces are slightly longer than the leaf pieces. See? The brown is the width of the card, 4 inches, whereas the leaf pieces are 3 3/4. So that'll let you know which ones you're supposed to use for which place. So we're using the shorter ones, the leaves right now, and we're adding the adhesive to the back of the leaves, which is the brown. And when we put these on, we're going to put one at the top and one at the bottom, and we're going to leave that 1/8-inch border around the 2 sides and the bottom. So there you go. And I'm turning the card around and I'm doing the same thing at the top, leaving that 1/8-inch border, and you're good. Now we can put our brown pieces on, which are the longer pieces, and now we're putting the adhesive on the leaf side. And we are going to put them, they are the same width as the card, so that fits left to right, and we're putting them right up against the leaf paper. Just butt it up right against. Okay, the next piece we're going to put on is the yellow, and we're going to put on, it's the honey butter, and we're going to put it on darker side up, so the adhesive goes on the lighter side. Now I'm using my 1/8-inch wide tape on here. If you don't have the 1/8-inch wide tape, you can use little dots of glue or the glue pen like I did on the wreaths, or even a glue stick. And this one, we've only got one of these strips. And it is actually going on the bottom. And it gets butter. You're going to put it right next to the brown. Just butt the edge right up next to it. Now I gave you these two rosemary strips, but you don't actually have to use them because our card is rosemary. So what we can do is just attach our sentiment strip. This is French vanilla again. I'm going to put adhesive on the back of that. And if you center it between the brown strip at the top and the yellow strip at the bottom, you're going to have your nice 2 strips of rosemary above and below. So you won't have to go through the trouble of adding these 2 strips. I'm not quite sure why I thought I needed to include them, but there you go. Just perfect without them. Okay, now we can attach our wreath. You can use whichever gluing method. A little scrap stuck there. Whichever gluing method you prefer. I am going to use my glue pen again. Okay, here's a little secret. If, remember how I said try not to move it on the scrap paper and get it into the excess glue? If it moved on you and you don't want to put it back down, just move it to another spot on your scrap paper. Better to use up the scrap paper and keep your good piece out of the glue. All right, and now I'm going to center it over my sentiment. And I put it down gently, and now I'm using my bone folder to burnish it into place. I got some glue on my bone folder, so I'm wiping it off before I put it down back on the wreath. And there I go. Put my scrap paper to the side. And we just have to add our leaves and our dots. So I'm going to turn all my leaves over and put foam tape on them again. These overlap a little bit, but not as much. So you don't have to worry quite so much about having the foam tape near the edges. Although, considering the outlines of these, you're probably not going to get too close to the edges anyway. my backings off. All right, so I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to put my oak leaf near the top and my little aspen leaf next to it. It's funny. I don't know if I told you which direction I was putting the colors on. I mean, it doesn't matter at all, but obviously I got my left and right mixed up on that one. So I'm going to start with my maple leaf and the one with the green on it. And I'm going to put this kind of on the bottom half, but a little bit to the left. I'm going to put, whoops, I'm going to put my branch down next. I'm chucking it under just the slightest bit. And then I'm going to put my other maple leaf to the right of that. And again, just tucking the bottom of the stem behind the branch and making sure not to cover up my sentiment there. And throw away my backing pieces. And adding the dots. So they're all going to be here to the right of the sentiment. Whoops. See, you either get too much or too little. I'm going to have one right here up to the right of that, but I'm actually putting the glue on the wreath. And then one down here a little bit. And that is way too much glue for that little tiny dot. Well, the glue is flowing again, that's for sure. All right, maybe I don't have to put a tip down. All right, so we're going to put a large beige heart here to the right of the thanks. We're going to put a large orange star on top of the wreath. And then we're going to put a tiny red sparkly dot. I do like these sparkly ones, of course. Down here. All right, and that's card number 3. And we got one more. This one has the toffee cardstock base. Actually, this is not toffee. It's very close to being toffee, but like I said, it's that older color. So if we were using the toffee, we'd use the dark side. This one, it's the same on both sides. So it doesn't matter what side you score on. And yes, I know we were coloring the cards first, but I figured since I was already reaching for my scoreboard, I would do it now. So again, scoring at 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to fold this and then I'll put it aside while we color our leaves. Okay. And for this one, we need an aspen leaf. Whoops, not upside down. And we need a cluster. And we need an oak leaf. So just those three. Okay. And we're going to use, again, all 4 colors on this one. All right, so got our yellow. In the yellow, I am going to put on the cluster, and I'm going to put it on the tip of the branch up here, and on the tip in the left side of the branch down there. As you ink more and blend more, your brushes are going to get more saturated with color. So it'll be a little easier to blend because there'll be more ink in your brush and until you wash them out, of course. So in the orange, I'm going to put the orange over most of the maple leaf in the cluster. And then I'm going to put it on this pointy leaf. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what kind of leaf this is. I am not. I only know the very basics of New England because that's where I grew up and that's what they taught us. I had a friend once who, when her son was very young, and I imagine Aiden will be learning this soon. In the meantime, I'm putting orange on the left side of the oak leaf. You know, when you first learn your leaves in school and the shapes, and my friend pointed to in a little bot on the bottom of this aspen leaf, pointed to a bare tree and asked what kind of tree it was. And he said, "How am I supposed to know? All the leaves fell off," which I thought was pretty hysterical. And all these years later, I remember that story, and it's true. I mean, I don't know what kind of tree, what kind of tree a bare tree is if the leaves aren't on it. And as you now know, I don't always know what they are, even if the leaves are on it. But okay, I am switching to brown here, and I'm going toffee, and I'm going to add it to the rest of the aspen leaf. I guess I know what obviously I know what an evergreen is, but I guess a birch tree would be the one leaf or the one tree that's easy to identify with no leaves on it, right? Highland Park has some really cool looking trees, and they have plaques on them, so that's kind of cool because you can find out what they are. I added some brown to my oak leaf as well. Just trying to blend the color a little more on this aspen leaf. I didn't get a good blend. Okay, and now I'm going to add just a little brown to the left side of the maple leaf on the cluster. All right, and now I'm going to use the rosemary on what's left of the cluster. Just blending out a little bit. All right, so there we go. Put this aside to dry. And get our other pieces. So the first pieces we're going to put on are these brown strips. We're going to put the adhesive on the leaf side. Whoops, drove off the side. I'm going to put one piece at the bottom of the card, and again, just like we did on the last card, you're going to leave an 1/8 inch border on the left, the right, and the bottom. Just cleaning off the adhesive on this piece that I drove crookedly on. And we're going to put this strip at the top, leaving that same 1/8 inch border at the top and the two sides. Next, we're going to take the leaf piece, and we're going to put it straight in the middle of the card. It is the same width of the card, and it should overlap both strips of brown just slightly. So you just want to center it top to bottom. It's got a little overhang, so I'm going to cut that off. Next, we will put the yellow strip, the honey butter, the darker side up, adhesive on the lighter side. We are going to put that again across the width of the card, about a little tiny piece I cut off, about 1 inch from the top of the card. And again, I have a little bit of overhang, so I'm going to cut that off. Next, I'm going to put this sentiment piece. I'm going to put adhesive on the back, and I'm going to attach it to the darker side of the rosemary rectangle. It'll be centered all the way around. And then we're going to put the zip strip across it, about 1/4 of an inch. Well, actually, so right below the greeting. Or right below the sentiment, which says greetings. And then put adhesive on the back of that whole piece. You'll notice this this card doesn't actually have a wreath. We're gonna put this on the card centered. It's a little bit taller than that leaf strip, so you'll have just a little tiny bit, about 1/8 of an inch, a little less at the top and at the bottom. And then we can put our leaves on. Put foam tape on them. All right. Take our backing off. And going to attach the cluster pretty much the left edge of it, pretty much along the left edge of the white, or the French vanilla, the off-white panel, and kind of centered top to bottom. It's just a touch taller than the panel, so fairly centered top to bottom on the card too. And then I'm going to stick this oak leaf down, coming out of the bottom, and I'm going to slip it underneath the cluster. And then I'm going to put this aspen leaf up near the top, and again stick it underneath the cluster. And now we can just put our dots on. Put here, one here on the left. Whoa! On the left of the sentiment, little up. And on the left side of the yellow strip. And I'm going to put a big red sparkly dot There, that one goes to the right of the sentiment. I'm going to put a medium orange heart on the yellow strip. And then I'm going to put the tiny beige star in the other spot here. And that's it. So this stamp and die cut kit was part of the workshop. So to purchase it, you have to buy the whole Close to My Heart workshop, but I am willing to sell mine if anybody is interested. I forgot to look up the price, but if you're interested, contact me and I'll let you know. And then I do want to show you my next two classes, which might be the last two classes for the year. I know as we get later into the year, it gets busy. So, everybody's got to worry about the holidays. So, on September 26th, I'm going to do, I think it's the 26th anyway. Hold on, let me just confirm. It's in the email I sent, but I can't believe it is. Yes. So on the 26th, we're going to do these owls. Now, these owls are the October stamp of the month. So you'll have the opportunity to purchase them right after the class because it's, only a few days before October starts. And these can be Christmas cards, but they don't have to be. One of these is a birthday card. You can change up the colors. Like there's this blue one here on the scarves. I think it would be really cute to do fall colors on them and use them for other occasions as well. So we've got the winter owls on the 26th. And then in November, and it's November 14, we have the Pretty Poinsettias, which is pretty much a Christmas card class. So, I mean, you could, if you really like these flowers, you certainly could do the flowers in different colors, and people wouldn't necessarily call them poinsettias if you changed up the colors. Obviously, in the red and green, it looks very Christmassy. And this class is going to be one of those that we use one piece of pattern paper, and you'll make 8 cards. You'll make these 4, and you'll get the supplies to make 4 more. We'll do the one set in class, and then you can do the other ones outside of class. And you'll get a cutting diagram on how to cut the one piece of pattern paper to make the 8 cards. And then of course the glitter paper, and then the cardstock is extra. But it's a great way to use a double-sided piece of cardstock, or 2 single-sided pieces, and make a great collection of cards. So you can use that in many, many cards. Oh, good, Cheryl. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Yes. I love the autumn phase stuff. So I love the colors and I always think they look pretty. So just let me know if you want to take in either of these classes. Check out the new catalog, all the new fun new stuff online. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for coming tonight, and I will see you soon.